Despite earlier criticism, the Washington Post now believes the Wuhan lab leak theory is suddenly credible. CNN's ratings are in a free fall ever since Joe Biden became president. Plus, former President Trump talks energy policy with Newsmax host Steve Cortez. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with the Washington Post because we've learned something terrible over the past year. And I'm talking through the elections and through COVID-19. And that is the establishment media and big tech. They determine what is truth. And once they do, no other viewpoint is allowed. They've come up with this term, developed this term called misinformation, which in the old days used to mean difference of opinion or debate. A perfect example is what we're seeing now with the origins of coronavirus and the idea that it could have come out of a lab in Wuhan, China. Now, through intelligence reports, expert analysis, and the dreaded opinion, there are reports going back even a year that the origin was not some bats out in nature in some food market, but in the Wuhan lab. That's what people were talking about. Experts. President Trump, Senator Tom Cotton was talking about this. But was it investigated? Was it debated? No. The media labeled it. They labeled it as a conspiracy theory, something fringe. Now, all of a sudden, it's credible. And here's the story. Washington Post fact checker Glenn Kessler declared the Wuhan coronavirus lab leak theory suddenly credible on Tuesday after previously mocking Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, and others last year for espousing the virtually impossible theory. The source of the coronavirus that has left more than 3 million people dead around the world remains a mystery. But in recent months, the idea that it emerged from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, once dismissed as a ridiculous conspiracy theory, has gained new credence, Kessler wrote in a Timeline article about how the story developed over the past year. One of the outlets to dismiss it as a ridiculous conspiracy theory was Kessler's. The Washington Post reported on February 7th, 2020, that Senator Tom Cotton had repeated a fringe theory suggesting that the ongoing spread of a coronavirus is connected to research in the disease-ravaged epicenter of Wuhan, China. Kessler passively referred to the article as critical of Cotton. So the Washington Post is suddenly on board. But here's the thing. Back when people were talking about this, the Washington Post and other media outlets tried to discredit it. And how did they do it? A lot of times they talked to people in China to back up the accusation that it originated in China. Think about that one. To discredit the report, they go to the people who would obviously want to discredit it. It makes no sense, but that's what Kessler and other people in the media did. Then he went on and blasted Senator Ted Cruz when Ted Cruz came out and laid waste to the Washington Post story. Here's more. I fear Ted Cruz missed the scientific animation in the video that shows how it is virtually impossible for this virus to jump from the lab, or the many interviews with actual scientists. We deal in facts, and viewers can judge for themselves. That tweet was just from a few weeks ago. Now Kessler says it's suddenly credible. It's if this whole year has gone by and the story is a ridiculous conspiracy theory until just a few weeks ago. Now everything has changed. So Senator Ted Cruz went on and blasted Kessler for his change of opinion, tweeting this: "Clowns." And Cruz puts the side-by-side of Kessler's juvenile attack on Cruz next to the news story by Kessler that the Wuhan lab leak theory is suddenly credible. It's amazing how the media completely ignored this idea. And not only ignored it, but vilified the people who talked about it. If you brought up an opinion counter to the approved narrative, you personally were attacked. Now we have learned so much more, not only about the possibility of the origins of this virus, but that Dr. Fauci's own organization was funding it. Senator Tom Cotton has spoken out on both of those issues, the origins and the funding. Here's some of his comments.
The letter that I joined Senator Ron Johnson and a handful of other senators on very specifically asks the National Institutes of Health why they were funding gain-of-function research in these Wuhan labs. Now, Dr. Fauci has been to Congress, and he said this absolutely did not happen. But Dr. Fauci is playing word games. So the money that the NIH gave went to an American organization, which turned around and gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to these Wuhan labs to investigate coronaviruses and, yes, to find ways to make them more contagious and more dangerous.
So there you have it. The theory that COVID-19 originated in a lab is now suddenly credible, and we have Dr. Fauci and others who have to answer a lot of questions as to the possibility that American tax dollars helped to weaponize it. Next, let's talk about CNN, but first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. All right, let's talk about CNN because they must certainly miss former President Trump because they struck ratings gold by attacking him day in and day out, over and over and over again. And why? To try and bring him down, to try and get him out of office. Well, guess what? Now he's out of office. Now they have Joe Biden, and their ratings are in a free fall. No one wants to watch the network. They're scrambling. Their ratings are in the basement. And here's the story. Ratings from Nielsen Media Research reported Tuesday indicated that CNN lost 67% of its total viewers since January when Donald Trump left the White House. During the primetime hours of 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., CNN lost around 65% of its total viewers since January. In the critical 25 to 54 age demographic, the network lost 71% of its viewers for both the day and primetime. CNN's drop in viewers is larger than its competitors, but all major cable news shows have experienced a drop. MSNBC had the second largest drop in viewership since January, losing 49% of its total viewership between January and May. In the 25 to 54 age demographic, the network lost 63% of its viewers. During primetime hours, MSNBC lost 42% of its total viewers and 58% of viewers between the ages of 25 and 54. Wow, the drop is just incredible, and CNN is scrambling to do anything to try and salvage the ratings. Just the last week, they tried this farewell gimmick with Don Lemon's show in order to try and get a boost.
So earlier, I told you I had an announcement, and I do. It's been really, really great. This is the last night that we'll be CNN Tonight with Don Lemon. So I appreciate all the years of CNN Tonight with Don Lemon, but changes are coming.
So it sounds like he's signing off, right? Leaving the network, maybe retiring. Nope. After you let that simmer for a little bit to the few left-wing people that actually watch it, Lemon went on Twitter and put out this. Hey everyone, not what you think. I'm not leaving CNN. Tune in for the handoff on Monday at 10 p.m. and I'll explain. Okay, so he's not leaving CNN, so what's the big news? This end of an era that he's talking about? Here it is. Didn't mean to set the internet on fire. What I said last night was true. CNN Tonight with Don Lemon is no more. I'll be back on Monday with my newly named show, Don Lemon Tonight. See you Monday at 10 p.m. Unreal. That's the big news. CNN Tonight with Don Lemon becomes Don Lemon Tonight. That's the big news that they tried to tease. It's just bogus. His ratings continue to fall. And here's more of the story. Fox News had the least substantial drop out of all networks, losing 12% of its total viewers and 15% of viewers between the ages of 25 and 54 between January and May. CNN's New Day has taken a major hit in ratings. The show had its least watched week of the year so far, with 461,000 total viewers and 108,000 viewers between the ages of 25 and 54, and it has averaged less than 500,000 viewers for the past 4 consecutive weeks. Friends, look, let's help spread the word about my channel and Right Side Broadcasting, because I think with a little work, we can beat those ratings. We can drop CNN even lower. Let's give it a shot. All right, next, let's talk about former President Trump, because he sat down with Newsmax host Steve Cortez for a wide-ranging interview on a host of issues, really drawing the contrast to how things were a year ago and how things are now very quickly under Joe Biden. In particular, I want to bring up the energy policy because Steve Cortez asked him about rising energy prices and inflation.
Well, it's going to be ugly. When you look at the cost of a house, just the materials for a house, it's up 30 or 40% in the last few months, especially lumber. Lumber, they say you can't even get it. The lumber's gone through the roof. The lumber, I guess, as much as anything, but everything, steel. You look at what's going on with pricing, and obviously you're going to have inflation. Gasoline is going to stop at $6, $7, I think, based on what I'm seeing. We were energy independent when I left, and right now I would have to say we are no longer energy independent.
Energy independence. Friends, I can't stress enough how important that is, not only for energy prices and how it affects people's wallets, but for national security. And former President Trump touched on that when he addressed the so-called green tech.
We're putting windmills all over the place, which cost a fortune, which, by the way, if you're a believer in the carbon footprint and all of the other things, when they make these windmills, which are all made in China and Germany, by the way, they're all made in China, Germany. We don't do them here. They put them together. We put them together here. We don't make them here. What goes into the air when they make them is more than anything that can ever be saved.
It's a great statement by former President Trump, and the left wants you to look at emissions only at end emissions, as if that's the only source of pollution in the whole development of a product. I've said it before on my show, you need to drive a Tesla 7 to 8 years for it to finally be cleaner than an internal combustion engine due to the pollution from making the rechargeable batteries. That's what's going on, but the left never talks about that. Here's former President Trump talking about natural gas versus wind and solar.
Somebody was giving me an analogy that natural gas is 1 cent per however they measure it. Wind is 50 cents and 55 cents. Solar is 56 cents. So here we have it for 1 cent, but it's probably almost nothing. Delivery is probably the biggest thing. We have it. It's there. It's a natural byproduct. We have it.
Wow. Clean burning natural gas right here in America. Yet the Joe Bidens and the AOCs want Americans to pay 50 times more for energy sources that are controlled by places like China for raw materials and production. It makes no sense. We can't go down that road when we have clean burning natural gas right here and way cheaper. All right, next let's talk about the lieutenant colonel who is actually getting some support now in Congress. Colonel Lohmeyer, he is the one that spoke out against Marxism and critical race theory in the Pentagon. He was relieved of duty for doing that. Now, some congressional leaders are stepping forward, and that's a good thing, folks, because the left keeps reaching its tentacles deeper and deeper into American society with this critical race theory and wokeness, and it's up to people to fight back. Parents are now speaking out. They are outraged. State legislatures are banning it, and people like Colonel Lohmeyer are being activists and speaking out. Here's the story. Space Force Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer, who was sacked from his command following a book he wrote and comments he made about a growing influence of what he called neo-Marxist-based race and diversity programs in the military, has a powerful new ally on Capitol Hill, the senior Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma has joined a growing list of GOP lawmakers who say they are concerned they are witnessing an increasingly politicized environment developing in a Department of Defense that seems to target service members making conservative or traditional statements that would have received little attention before the Biden administration. That's for sure. Now conservatives are public enemy number one. Anyone who pushes back against this left-wing indoctrination of our kids, of college students, or in this case, members of the military, is targeted and canceled. That's what the left is doing. And here's more. Lieutenant Colonel Lohmeyer's abrupt dismissal earlier this month, which is now being investigated by the Air Force's own Inspector General, is providing Exhibit A for those with questions on whether political correctness, critical race theory, and anti-conservative biases are finding a home at the Pentagon. I have many questions about how the Air Force has handled the case of Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer, Mr. Inhofe said. Members of our military should not only be able to speak out against Marxism, but they should be encouraged to do so, as long as they follow the rules and laws already in place. Mr. Inhofe said he will continue looking into ways for Congress to ensure that service members, regardless of their ideologies, will have the same free speech rights as all Americans. Amen to that. This is a serious issue, folks, and there are examples after examples of military members being targeted because they haven't embraced and adopted this woke philosophy, this woke ideology, this critical race theory. They are alone out there unless we help them, because Joe Biden and the ultra-radical left, they are targeting them for cancellation. We have to fight back. We have to keep going. Folks, that's our show for today, but don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. Our next show will be Friday. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.